Blame It on Vanity by Denise Matthews, formerly known as Vanity. Chapter 4 My Black Forest. I know the year was 1963, and I suppose it was the middle of July because a flaming hot sun was staring down at me. It's so very strange how the body can feel so chilly when staring directly at the big orange ball. It would have been a good time for a great rain to fall and wash that cursed day away, but it did not. Mother could have wrapped her loving arms about me, smothering me with her kisses, but she did not. If only God would have flooded the sky with a magnificent hailstorm, then I could have spent the day in bed with my mama, watching the lightning crack across the sky, but such was not the case. All the wishes in the world could not have altered my destination chosen for me that day, so I just went head on and lived it. Allow me to take you back there. I was born in Niagara Falls, Ontario, one of the seven wonders of the world, so someone once wrote, and I passionately agree. Until the age of 4, the phrase, "Go ask your father," was never uttered from Mama's mouth, for my father was yet to be identified. Abandoned by him and cast from his eyes, naturally my mother became everything to me. I can't say I remember the drive to that awful house, but I well remember my tears. Dressed in my favorite frilly white dress and shiny patent leather shoes, Mother lifted me up by the waist and set me on top of an old cement step, the way one might when carrying a dog outside to pee. Where am I, I thought to myself, standing there surrounded by all these big black trees? A deep forest shrouded with enormous evergreens stood soaring tall before me. Everywhere I looked, there were so many of them towering above my head. Naturally, I had a million questions to ask of her, and every one of them hurled forth like a bullet train derailed, but Mamma remained cold and untouched by them. Normally, she gripped about the heat, but now she was ignoring me as if deserved no regard. Today, she hated everything and scolded me coldly. "Stand still, Denise, and don't move," she said. So I stood there, vulnerable, feeling helpless, wondering what I'd done, and then she turned and walked away. Tiny bullets of sweat dripped down the nape of her neck. I reached out for her and pleaded for her to take me home, but she ignored my gesture. I glanced down at my suitcase, and I knew by the size of it she was leaving me there for a while. Mama had left me with strangers before. I remember with one of them touched me inappropriately. I was all but 4 years old. My eyes squinted from the bright afternoon sun, and I quickly tried to erase that dreadful memory. I stared up at Mother as if she were my biggest wish come true, but she was like a catfish, and sadly no one had taught me how to fish. She wore a colorful dress that revealed her slender back. Her soft, white, milky skin was now a blushing red from being out in the hot sun too long. Mama often reminded me that I was the color of a caramel. Caramels were her favorite candy. Her hair was a deep golden red and her skin bronzed and full of freckles. She took a few steps and then paused briefly, too paralyzed to move. With piercing eyes and a steadfast squint, she examined the forest before us. What on earth was she looking for, and why wouldn't she look at me? What was bothering her and drawing her attention out there so far into the woods? "Mama, what's wrong?" I hollered. "Mama, please." She quickly resumed her walk to the car, muttering something under her breath. She slid down into her blazing red 59 MGB convertible. Her hands quivered nervously as she slipped off her silk stockings and stuffed them inside of her purse, and oh, how I wished I could have slid in there with them. In a high-pitched voice I called out, but she wouldn't look at me. My hair rose up on the nape of my neck as I took off running. I bolted off the porch and headed towards Mama's car. Tears came spilling down my pretty white dress, making a mess of me. I reached out to grab hold of her, but then the car door slammed shut. Her body jolted in shock at the touch of my fingers, as if she had just seen a ghost. I looked her straight in her eyes. She had no choice but to face me now. "Mama, why, Mama?" Mama just sat there staring straight through me. Her eyes were like hollowed pools of darkness circling around into a dead end. Her lips quivered, but she still wouldn't speak. Nervously, I reached out to touch her hair. I tried to twirl it between my fingers, but I was clumsy and tangled it up instead. Frustrated, she yanked my tiny fingers from her hair. She always let me brush it after her bath. I felt like angel's hair, and it felt like angel's hair in the water. Mama was beautiful. I gently pushed the hair away from her eyes and spoke to her softly so as not to make her more impatient with me. Please don't leave me here, I said. I knew my time was running out and I was desperate to keep her eyes focused on me. I hated it when she left me. I opened the car door and got closer to her. I hugged her tight and clasped my fingers together around her neck. I rested my head on her chest. Her breast cushioned my face and my hands felt the warmth of the sun on her back. I loved the way she smelled. I had to take care of her, didn't she know? Who was going to dance for her and make her laugh when she was crying? Who would tickle her back gently so she could sleep? She loosened herself from me and reached out for the door to slam it shut. Go on, she said, peering over the rolled-up window. You'll be okay without me. Mama struck her key in the ignition and sped out of the driveway, leaving a long, dusty trail behind her. I just stood there, stuck like a tree stump, rooted in the ground for what seemed an eternity. Gasping for air, I wailed, Mama! Down on my knees, banging my fist violently on the ground, I hollered, crying, Mommy, Mommy, come back! I wept uncontrollably, rubbing my eyes. I strained to get a glimpse of her, leaving the black forest. She didn't look back at me. I wanted the earth to swallow me up whole. I wanted to die. My mama's name was Helga. Diary Interlude, December 19, 2006. I felt the need to pause a little and express this awesome testimony before I go any further. Being as it fits so perfectly in between these pages, obviously you have come to the conclusion that my grandmother gave up her child, which was Helga, and she left me almost the very same way. In the year 2000, I visited my mother in Canada. I specifically went to minister to her as well as I yearned to know what her childhood story would read like in between the pages of my book. I loved her dearly, and of course my heart reached out to her with sincerity. Up until then, I was unsuccessful in hoping she would receive Jesus in her life. Anyway, we naturally got to talking about the past, and my grandmother, which is her mother Katie, came up in the conversation. No one before this time had even spoken of the war, and I figured there might be some hidden history worthy of hearing. Well, being the inquisitive woman that I am with the passion to write, and possibly being the last one to carry any information of our heritage into the next generation, good or bad, I was looking for truth. Anyhow, Helga gave me enough information for 3 or 4 paragraphs, which most certainly would not fill the pages. They described only dates and times and a few short facts of how Helga had been left at the train station, and yes, a slew of old photographs which you are viewing. After I departed from Canada, I settled my heart to pray over the notes and pictures. Please, Lord, reveal to me in detail what happened so long ago. Being the ready writer that I am, I turned my notes into poetry, hoping for answers from Jesus. I called my mother when I had finished her part of the story and read it to her. Mom, if any of this is not true, just tell me and I will fix it. I prayed and asked Jesus for details. She listened intently to the many pages I had written, and after a long silence, I heard her weeping softly. Mom, what's wrong? I asked. There must be a God, she replied, for who could have revealed such details for you? For who could have revealed such details to you? We serve such an awesome God, and He proves Himself so mightily in the details of our life. He is in the midst of us and hears our prayers and reveals Himself so that we might give Him all the greatest glory. He even loves those who have yet to discover His love. It's all the many miracles He performs in our lives that makes us see He is so close. He keeps calling us home. Jesus said, "Follow me for the miracles and not the bread. Follow me for the miracles and not the bread." Help us, Lord, to be mindful that You are our miracle of life. End of interlude.